Phenom Black here, MTR Network, and I am talking to the creators of Futturman.
Creators, showrunner.
Yeah.
Okay, and your name is?
I'm Ben Karlin.
Okay,
Ariel Shaffir.
Kyle Hunter.
cool. So, the first thing I noticed from watching the trailer is that it is just all of these 80s classic tropes being thrown at you. Like, I'm like, this is a little bit of War Games. This is kind of like Tronny. This is Back to the Future. Like, it seems like you guys just had a lot of fun revisiting, like, your childhood maybe in the writer's room.
Yeah, we did have a lot of fun revisiting our childhood in the writer's room. There was maybe a little too much fun, but yeah, no, it was great. I mean, we all grew up with those movies, so it was a thrill to get to create a series that, you know, kind of pays homage to those things. Yeah.
Yeah, we wanted to kind of squarely reference those things, but also wanted to stand alone. I think certainly in like the trailer and in early episodes, we're kind of laying that in a little bit. But we really took a lot of time and effort to come up with like an original story that kind of hopefully fits in that canon of kind of interesting, fun time travel, sci-fi action comedy.
I appreciate it. Like, you took one of my favorite scenes from Back to the Future with that new whatever you're looking for. Like, that's easily one of my favorite scenes. Like, so what was different though about this project that you think is going to separate it from all of the things it makes calls back to?
Well, tonally, I don't think, or any of the things we're referencing have this tone. This tone is really, it's a continuation of what Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg do really well in their movies, which is kind of real-world stakes, very intense, but very hard comedy as well. If you go back to the Terminator or Aliens or even Back to the Future, those are more squarely genre, films, and this kind of is more of like a hybrid, I would say. And you're starting to see it more on television, but there isn't really a lot like this. We think it is kind of unique, actually.
We're very unique.
So I like that a lot of the streaming services are doing their own original content. I think it allows for diversity and creativity. What was different about working with Hulu versus working with other networks?
Oh my God! Well,
we had a lot of creative freedom working with Hulu. There wasn't a single idea that we had where they said that it was over the line or. So
if anything, they made us
they pushed
go
us,
further with some of those ideas, which we definitely knew we had a good partner because they're even more disgusting than we are.
Did you guys go? There's no way you went further than Sausage Party, right? Is that possible?
I think we might. I think we
so,
might dip our toe a little further.
It's not just the gratuitous, either sex jokes or stuff like that. It's really more like the ideas. The ideas in this show that we kind of thought, like, there's no way they're going to let us do that. And then they did. And they're like, just do more of that. Someone who's worked a lot in, like, network television, it was unbelievably refreshing. I've never had an experience where the network was just kind of cool with anything we really came up with, as long as it was something that we were passionate about and cared about. Like, there were no rules about what kind of stories we had to tell and lessons that had to be learned by certain characters or any kind of traditional drumbeat that you get from a network. They really, really gave us, carte blanche. It was incredibly freeing and exciting.
Can we talk about casting your villains and your protagonists? How did you go about that? What was that process like? Did you already have these people in mind, or?
Well, Josh, from the Disaster Artist, right? That was where they kind of fell in love with him, right?
Yeah, we met him. Josh was doing a Disaster Artist with Seth and Evan, and we came to set and met him there, and he's really funny in that movie, and we showed him the script, and he gravitated to it right away, and it was sort of a perfect marriage right away.
I loved Eliza. I was a huge fan of Eliza from Happy Endings, and when these guys were looking for someone that kind of could be that kind of badass action heroine, but also had the comedy chops, there aren't a lot of people who can do that, and Eliza is a very short list, and she's probably at the top of it.
And Derek had been on Seth and Evan's other TV show, Preacher, and was a standout on that show, and he's a funny guy, and he has huge arms, so he could sell the action thing, and so yeah, it was once we had those three together, the show kind of took off.
Last question. I'm an online gamer. Like, I play a lot of Destiny, stuff like that, and I would love to see like my Guardian come to life. I would love to see what their personality is really like. So, were there any like current games that you guys may have like dropped Easter eggs for that are in this that the gaming culture will be like, oh, I know what that is. I know what that reference is for.
Not really. I'm so sorry, because I know I can see how badly you want there to be the answer to be different. But no, honestly, the video game that he plays is kind of like a jumping off point, and then after that, it's really us kind of leaning into the sci-fi genre, and it moves away from video games.
I think we felt, all of us have played video games, but it is such an intense culture. It felt a little fake for us who aren't like hardcore gamers to try and build it around like the gaming world. I think we felt a lot more comfortable in the world of pop culture, in the world of sci-fi, in the world of genre. So I think once we kind of started into our storytelling, we were like, all right, we got to do this because like we're gonna like crash up against the rocks if we're trying to make this like a game-centric thing.
Well, I look forward to watching the show. Sadly, we only got to see the trailer, so I'm waiting to see a couple of episodes. And thank you for talking with us.
You.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.